Evening, everyone. Welcome to the December 5th City of Oldsmar Council meeting. It is 7 p.m. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Could everyone please rise for our invocation and our pledge allegiance to the flag by our city attorney, Tom Trask.
Our Heavenly Father, help us to carry out the tasks necessary for us to fulfill our purpose. Help us to stay on track so that we may let this meeting work for our good and for the good of the community. And also help us to be good stewards of positive change to benefit the city of Oldsmar and its residents. In this we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Tom. First item on our agenda is the Oldsmar Citizens Open Forum. Each speaker will be recognized once and will be limited to a 5-minute presentation on any subject. Please state your name and address for the record. The open forum will conclude at 7:30. Is there anybody on this side that would like to speak? Come on up. Sure.
Hello, council, mayor, Tom Trask, staff, and our community. Sue DeYandes Cologne, 402 Arlington Avenue East, Oldsmar, Florida. I want to, first of all, just start off by congratulating and saying thank you for a wonderful Winter Wonderland event this past Friday. It looked like it was very well attended. We were very proud to be a part of it. Miss Suda's Dancers was there opening the show, and our dancers did a great job. We also had our Oldsmar Old Time Carolers there who sang some wonderful Christmas songs, including our lovely wife of Council Member Buckman had joined us as well. And we just thank everyone that came out to that event. It was a great event, and we love being involved in that every year. Wanted to just say another quick item. Although our show, Peter Pan, was just in October recently, we have rolled right into the next one as I put my Opal Theater hat on for us. And we are having My Son Pinocchio Jr., and that is our next show coming up in April 27th of 2024. But our rehearsals have already began, and we have a very excited cast, including a couple new students. And we do still have room offering to the community. If anybody would like to join our cast, we do still have room and some roles open, so please help us pass the word. And finally, I want to thank, with my Oldsmar Friends of the Arts hat on, I would like to thank the city, staff, community, and council for your continued support of our Oldsmar Friends of the Arts, supporting our performing arts programs here in Oldsmar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Suda.
Thanks, Suda.
Anybody else on this side of the room would like to speak to council? Anybody on this side? All right, we're going to go over to this side. Anyone like to speak to city council? Come on up, Jerry. Come on up, Mayor.
Jerry Beaverland, 512 Pine Avenue South. It's hard to remember who I am anymore.
We remember you.
We'll help you.
Before I get started, what I'm really here for, I got 3 things I want to just very quickly state. I hope a council member or the city manager or somebody will pick this up and do something for us so I don't have to come up here anymore and say anything about it. When everybody thought I killed the downtown redevelopment in 1990, I saved the downtown redevelopment. I saved it. And after I told everybody, the city manager, the mayor, and whoever else, when I explained to them how I saved it, they were all, yeah, good. Do you know how much money, the TIF money, has come into the city? Does anybody have any idea? You probably know. Does anybody have any idea how much TIF money this city has received from the downtown redevelopment? How many millions of dollars? I know you can't say it off the top of your head, but it's been millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. Would somebody please take that plaque out of the concrete out front here and put it on a stand in front of City Hall so people can actually see the plaque of downtown redevelopment? Please? Okay. Now, I've asked a couple times about the posts at REO's Park. The posts keep people from driving in there. Well, the posts are falling down on the part where there's a the dog park. Either take the posts down or replace the posts, one way or the other. Now, I'd like to have sometime, I'd like to know what the progress is on taking the Historical Society over to the library. I have a lot of things I'm going to donate, plus another book signed by REOs and some, all my dummy books of the books I wrote, that they can be copied from this. I got a ton of stuff that I'm going to donate to them, so I need you to tell me where I need to put it so it can be inventoried. Now, my wife made me dress up tonight because I'm going to introduce somebody. Either that or I've been in shorts and a t-shirt and whatever. Cleveland. This is a friend of mine that I have known for years and years and years. This is Cleveland Smith. When I moved to Oldsmar, he was already here, and that's been 58 years ago. Cleveland worked on all these cattle ranches out here, and in fact, I even went to his house when he built his new house.
Forest Lake and Pine, 568 Lake Cypress Circle.
He has one of these lakes behind him. He's one of these. Now, Cleveland is a person that will not toot his own horn. I'll toot it for him. He's an incredible guy. He has more plaques than you have, Mayor. Hang on his wild. He does. He's got plaques from the Sheriff's Department over and over and over, different plaques, what he has done something for the Sheriff's Department. He has more city government involvement than any of you people. He's been on the Board of Adjustments for 16 years, and that's almost a record. Cleveland said, well, what happens when somebody asks me, how about a black man running for, and I said, what you tell them is, you're a human being, a resident of Oldsmar, and you love the city. That's why I'm running. Don't bring anything else into it. And I mean that. He's a friend. Now, Cleveland, Smith, this, oh, I'll let you say, this is your council. Go ahead.
Well, my name is Cleveland Smith. I live at Preserve at Lake Cypress Lake. And in the future, my intent is running for city council. And I just want everybody to know this tonight. I go way back, Pop Stansel, went fishing with Dr. Meese. I know the Coachman family, I know the McMullen family. And I grew up on Charles Jackson Ranch next to Boot Ranch, which everybody here thinks is a state. But I remember the ranch itself. DNS, Darwin Sauls, James Bryan at Keystone and East Lake, all the way into Tarpon Spring, Papa Stamets, I know all those guys.
He knows Boyd.
Alfred Boyd, one of the biggest landowners between Hillsborough and Pinellas County.
Boot Ranch.
And the canal was dug to drain off Lake Tarpon because all the flooding between the hurricanes and storms, and that was the reason they dug the canal. East Lake, that's not the original route. When they got Chestnut Park, it would make a right for a half mile, then it snaked back out at Landsbrook. And the reason why they changed the direction, because they put the Pinellas County water line in, which I remember.
He
So-
remembers East Lake Road when it was what?
Yeah, well, it was a dirt road. My bus stop was 58 and Tampa Road in Landsbrook. That's how far we had to walk, rain or shine.
Whoa.
It was no 7-Eleven, sheriff's substation, or anything like that, but Sheriff Dungeon used to pick us up, state troopers, freshwater game, and all the other ranchers. So, yes, I've been here a while.
Wow.
He
So-
loves the city of Oldsmar. Now, he called a guy by Sauls,
Yeah. Darwin saw them DNS Ranch.
DNS Sauls. When I was a junior in high school, I worked for Sauls when he owned the Clearwater Jersey Dairy in Clearwater. My brother and I would go out there at 2 o'clock in the morning and work the dairy for him. You know, I just wanted you to meet the guy.
And on top of the world, that used to be a cattle ranch too. Judge Bird on that.
Love that.
So a little bit of history.
Tell him what you got today from the sheriff.
Oh, well, he welcomed Merry Christmas card and all that. Sheriff Galtori, I sat on his executive advisory board for 4 years. So that's why I had the plaques there.
So he,
And I also did the First Citizens Academy. And where I am, and why I'm standing here today, my dear friend Janice Miller was behind me, pushing me to do what I've done.
that was a 2007.
Good.
Yeah, so I've been around a little bit.
Anybody want to ask him any questions?
Good to see you. We usually only see you at the volunteer dinner every other, or out, out
Yeah,
and about,
yeah.
but
It's time everybody knows
yeah.
him. I've
You've
been
done a lot for
asking
the
him to run
Historical
for
Society,
council
too.
for- He would tell me that he would see me and he would go off and hide so I wouldn't come and ask him. "You run for council?"
You can't hide anymore.
No, I can't hide anymore.
Not that you ever could.
Yeah.
But he's an incredible individual. And I wanted you to see him face to face.
Okay, so,
Thank you all.
thank you.
Good to
Thank
see
you. Thank you. All right, is there anybody else on this side of the room that would like to speak to the council? Come on up.
Good evening, councilors. My name is Orlando Pena. I'm the director of Ovation's Dance Academy in Tampa. These are my dancers. 13847 West Hillsborough is the studio address. We are here to invite you all to come see our Nutcracker Suite at Dunedin. You can move forward. At Dunedin High School. The studio's been doing you got front and center, face forward. The studio's been doing really well. We've been doing some wonderful musicals since we've been here. Last summer, we did The Lion King at Dunedin High School. And now we're doing the Nutcracker Suite. We're only doing Act 2 since it's our first start here. We're inviting 3 dancers. We have 2 of my girls from New York that they started with me when they were 3 years old, and now they're freshmen in college, and they're going to be playing the role of Sugar Plum and Dewdrop. So we're very excited. We have a cast of 45 beautiful dancers, and that's it. This is run under my non-for-profit. We've developed it here in Florida. We have a very strong board of directors, and our goal is to get a theater going, because you guys need a theater in this area. So let's see when it happens, but I'm very excited to be here, and so are we. And please come see our show this Saturday, December 9th at 1 o'clock and 6 o'clock performance at Dunedin High School. And we have flyers for here.
So they can see you.
Turn around.
Yeah. I
Thank
wore
you.
my best ballerina bun tonight, Mayor, because Madison's a
Madison's
princess.
an angel, yes,
She's
she's
a
an angel in the
princess.
Oh,
show.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank
So,
you guys
yes.
for dressing up
Go in
and
the
coming
front,
out.
angels,
That's
go in the
wonderful.
front so
Angels, turn around.
Mom and Dad want to see you.
Face that way, face that way.
Yeah,
Face that
there
way.
we go.
There you go.
There we go.
But thank you so very much. Any questions?
Aw.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks.
picture?
All right.
Thanks for dressing up, guys. Thank you for coming like that. Wonderful. Sure. Let's do it.
Oh, awesome.
I promised an introduction.
Get right there, ladies and gentlemen. Get in the front.
Turn around so you can get the seal.
Yes. Go. Yeah, I'll take it. All right,
Really close, yeah. Amelia, scoot back. Orlando, I can't see you.
I'm short. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you so much.
Very nice. Break a leg, everyone. Do a great job.
Thank you, Katie. Very nice.
We have flyers here, so.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. All right, is there anybody else that would like to speak to the council? Anyone? No one? All right, we're going to close the Oldsmar Citizens Open Forum. The next item on our agenda is the Community Minute, which will be read by our city clerk, Kristen Garcia.
Santa's mailbox is open now through December 8th at Oldsmar City Hall. Santa's mailbox is right in front of City Hall. Drop off your letters and don't forget your return address so Santa can write back to you. Watering restrictions. Oldsmar is under a Phase 1 water shortage. For those using potable water, it will be limited to once a week. For those using reclaimed water, it's daily after 6 p.m. or before noon. For specific information, please visit the city's website. Solid waste and recycling notice. Holiday impacts. Coastal Waste observes Christmas Day, Monday, December 25th, and New Year's Day, Monday, January 1st. Trash solid waste pickup, waste collection skipped on these holidays will resume on the next scheduled service day. Recycling pickup will be a one-day delivery will occur, skipped Monday, and so will be picked up on Tuesday. And that's your community minute.
Great job as always. Thank you so much. Next item is approval of additional new agenda items 4, 19, 24, and 25. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Second. Any discussion on this item? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item is the Community Redevelopment Agency. I'm going to turn it over to you, Felicia.
Thank you, Mayor.
There's going to be an announcement.
Oh, yes, thank
Thank you,
you.
Mayor. Just wanted to disclose my primary residence is located within the CRA. I filed my form with the clerk this morning.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Item number 1 is an update for GAI Consultants. Laura Smith and Owen Vetch are here from GAI, so come on up.
Yes, thank you all. Yes, perfect. You've already got it pulled up. Great. So, hello, everyone. It's nice to see you all again. It's been a few months. If you recall the last time that we were here and spoke with you all, we were asking what you wanted us to do with next steps related to the RFP for redevelopment of the downtown site right here where City Hall is located. And the decision was made for us to conduct some interviews of the 5 shortlisted firms to determine why there were no responses received to that RFP. Oh, I just thought, I don't know if this is connected. I assume, yes? Maybe. Oh, it wasn't on. Power button. So, it's not my clicker, but it was on. All right, so we did attempt to contact the 5 firms who we had shortlisted for the RFP to respond. That was the Falcone Group, Pridgeon Development, Skyview Companies, Stanberry Development Group, and Woodfield Development. 3 of the 5 shortlisted firms all responded and agreed to participate in an interview. Those interviews were conducted over a few months just because of trying to get on people's schedule. We had to do some rescheduling because stuff came up on people's calendars at the last minute. And honestly, it took us about 8 to 10 weeks to get through all of our interviews, even just with 3 firms, because we kept having to bump buck our schedules. But we did end up having very productive interviews with 3 of the 5 shortlisted firms. So some of the topics that were primary to those discussions were, of course, explaining to these individuals that confidentiality was of the utmost importance. We were not going to disclose what any one firm said in our interviews. We would only report on those things in the aggregate. So anything that we're speaking of today is considered the universal from all 3 firms, or it may have been from 1 firm or 2 firms. But either way, we were very clear with them that we would not attribute any of the feedback that we received to a specific individual or a specific firm. We talked about their interest and desire to continue to participate in general. We talked about the overall economy and market conditions. We talked about basic submission requirements and also general teaming concerns, scoring, the process, any overall challenges, and the potential for them to submit in the future, do a resubmittal. And then based on the feedback that we got on those topics, we submitted a memorandum to the city manager, which I believe is in your packet towards the end of October. And that really does summarize all of the overall findings. It identifies the 3 firms that we interviewed and so on. So generally speaking, with regard to the concept itself, there was broad support for the concept. What we heard most universally was people responded originally to the LOI and subsequently were interested when they were shortlisted in responding because they feel like this is a great concept, it's a great site. Now, they were concerned that there was a limited opportunity to deviate from some of the requirements and felt like discussion about alternative approaches were seen as possibly unwelcome. So they felt like maybe they didn't have the ability to propose something that wasn't exactly in line with the concept as it was originally laid out. Now, I first want to say the RFP itself, we still have a lot of confidence in what was in that document, but a lot of the interpretation is maybe the most restrictive interpretation of that. And I understand doing that because anyone who's ever worked in a field where you respond to RFPs, you tend to over-interpret language as opposed to reading it as generally as possible. It's something you do to try to read between the lines, kind of, and you're like, well, I think they mean this. It's one of those kind of things. The interpretation is not always on point with the intent, and that did seem to be sort of a consistent thread throughout, was sort of an over-interpretation of the language to be as restrictive as possible. In terms of structure and process, some of the issues with the content and approach stemmed from, again, like I was saying, the most restrictive. But I do want to be clear, we did allow for a forum to address those concerns within the RFP. If you recall, we did have a pre-proposal or pre-bid meeting that was voluntary. And also there was an opportunity to submit any questions that you wanted to submit. It was a very open process. But oftentimes folks don't feel like those are a good opportunity for them to engage for one reason or another. There was concern that there was too much emphasis on the collective team as opposed to the lead developer. A lot of the folks that we spoke with said that we would have really liked for the scoring to be more heavily weighted towards the experience of the lead firm as opposed to the overall teaming, understanding that the teaming may need to change as the project evolves. And they felt like putting more emphasis on the teaming was a little overzealous, and we could have focused more directly on the development lead. And there were, of course, concerns about the overall approach, the potential concerns regarding the impact to total points as it related to those teaming issues. There was also some concern about refunding of the deposit. You know, we had asked that they pay a certain amount of a deposit right up front. There were some folks that were like, well, we didn't really understand what we had to do to get that money back if we decided not to move forward. There was some qualification language in the RFP that they were reading and didn't understand who would be qualifying them as qualified or not qualified to respond. And again, they were reading that a little bit more aggressively than we had intended it to be in the actual document. And I think this is just a sort of an over-interpretation of the language. Okay. There were some minor concerns about the economy and getting access to capital. We had talked about this before we started the interviews. One of the concerns that came up was, is there a concern that maybe the market and the economy is just not in the right place right now? And developers maybe don't feel super confident moving forward with such a large project given limited access to capital, the fluctuating interest rates that we were experiencing at the time that the responses would have been due, which was over the summer, that maybe the market was just a little too volatile to support the project overall from a developer perspective. We did not really hear that as a universal. And the only vein that we heard it in was a very sort of like, yeah, access to capital was a concern, but it wasn't the main reason we didn't respond. The market wasn't the main reason we didn't respond. They did talk about the rent ceiling, though. That there's only a certain amount of rent that can be achieved in this market, and that the pro forma didn't always balance with that rent ceiling. And that was a concern, meaning we needed to be a little bit more sensitive to the rents that were supportable. And that really led to this sort of uncertainty that required a little bit more awareness of that situation. So that really led actually into the conversation of, is there a way the city could be more involved financially? Which I think if you all read the memo that we provided that's in your packet, it speaks a little bit to the general request for more involvement on the city's behalf. Oop, jumped too far. But that really then takes us into our price and cost commitment conversation, where the issue of the project being feasible, even if the property were provided at nominal cost. This comes from that rent ceiling conversation. The more that we talked about rents, there was this much larger topic that kept coming up, that it's not gonna pencil out. And we even asked some folks, we're like, what if you put $0 on your offer for the land? And they said, yeah, it still just doesn't quite get there. So what we heard was there's some ways to work around that and some ways that they could maybe help get there. Some of those would be in the search for like financial contribution from the city, but they also talked a good bit about in-kind contributions, things like, are you willing to do some sort of parking component where we can do some shared parking strategies so that we don't have to provide all the parking on site? The same thing with maybe the city could help us with some of the infrastructure costs, things like that, that wouldn't necessarily be the city saying, here, we're gonna incentivize you to do this project, but being more as a partner in the process and some of the actual aspects of the development itself. Again, that's where it comes to this need for the city to be more involved financially or provide some sort of direct support. And in the absence of that additional support, the city being a little bit more committed overall. So if there was some way to involve the city at the very front, maybe accelerating the process, which is difficult. And, you know, we've talked to Felicia and Mr. Trask about this as well, that, you know, you do have a process that's written into your code, and that's not something that you can deviate from. You need to stay to that standard. And they seem to respect that when we talked about that. So that really leads us to our next step options. But before I get to next steps, did anyone have any questions about the interviews or any of the takeaways from those interviews that we documented in the memo?
Any questions? Anybody?
Not questions, just comments, discussion.
Go
I
ahead.
got one.
Okay.
And I don't recall if you shared in the memo or not of which specific three firms did respond. That's okay, that's not my question.
It is,
Not where
it's
I'm
in the
going.
memo.
Okay, that's what I thought. So I guess then, as it relates to your promise of confidentiality to the developers, that first point on the last slide you had up, as far as it not penciling out, was that unanimous, or can you not share that? I guess just yes or no, because then I can say, well, maybe it was 1, 2, or 3.
I will say this. It was not that it was unanimous or not unanimous. Some had not even gotten to the point of trying to pencil it out. They felt like there were other components, because we did ask. We said, you know, was this a concern that your pro forma didn't work, that the math didn't work for you? And the ones that said that it was a concern about the project doesn't pencil out, the pro forma doesn't work for us, had gone all the way through the process. Like, they realized it wasn't going to pencil out when they got through all the steps. The folks that said we never got that far were because they felt like the concept didn't allow for any wiggle. So if they needed, you know, a little bit of a shared parking arrangement or something like that, they felt like there wasn't an opportunity to propose a deviation like that. And so they said, when we realized that the parking wasn't going to add up, that we couldn't get enough parking to meet the density, we stopped even looking at the numbers. So I wouldn't say it was or wasn't unanimous. Some of them never got that far.
Understood. So, in essence, there were some perceived major barriers that, trying to think about it or look at it from a high-level view, they couldn't even get to the point of.
Yes, some of
working it
them
out.
said there were kind of, at that point, there was just a barrier that they felt like was an insurmountable situation, and they said there wasn't a real effort, there wasn't a need for them to continue down a path, because that was essentially a barrier to entry for them.
Understood. Thank you. That's all I have.
Any other questions?
Just the financial support from the city, of course, that's stated quite plainly. You mentioned in-kind contributions, which generally in-kind means that wouldn't be financial support, it would be
Right.
in-kind. Did they have something in mind that the city already has in place that they were
Some of it was
eyeballing
like,
where-
could they share the parking over here whenever it's not a council night? You know, can people that are at that property visiting the retail centers, can they use your parking here that's for City Hall? You know, is there an ability for them to use public facilities to offset during high demand times, things like that.
And was it one or the other, or a combination of both, saying we're looking for financial support, but we can offset some of the financial support we'd require because of the in-kind contributions that we can identify in what's already existing?
Those were not necessarily mutually exclusive, and they were not universal for each respondent. Some specifically said, we need a financial contribution. Some said, we just need some help with these issues. And then some said, a financial contribution or help with these issues. It was not all one or the other or both.
Okay. That's all I had, Mayor. Thank you.
Anyone else? Andrew was the question I had for you, so
Okay.
I'm good. Thank you.
So then our next steps, well, first of all, the takeaways are, for the most part, it's really clarification that's needed, that needs to be articulated here. The city's position about shared parking needs to be articulated. We already know that that's something that you're open to, but it wasn't documented in the RFP that the city's open to negotiating shared parking conditions. So it's something that, of course, we want to make sure is articulated more effectively. The pre-bid meeting was not mandatory in this response cycle. In a future situation, a mandatory pre-bid is probably more appropriate so that we make sure that you get all those questions right up front. And it also gives you an opportunity to make sure everybody hears the responses in the exact same way. And of course, understanding where we are today, the calendar of events, if you choose to move forward, wouldn't start until the new year. So really, we find ourselves with 3 options. And when we were here a few months ago, I think we gave you 5. So hey, we're down to 3. That's progress. So option A would be, of course, we can end this solicitation process. You can decide not to move forward any further and discontinue at this time. Option B would be to modify your RFP timeline, reaffirm the details, and invite them to submit again. And then option C would be to revise the content and issue a new non-restricted RFP, meaning you're going to open it up to everybody in the world, theoretically, who would be interested in responding to this. And we would still revise the content to do so, and that would go out as a brand new RFP to a non-restricted group.
Okay.
So there's pros and cons to these. We can go through those pros and cons if you like. And I think we talk about them in the memo, but this is just sort of a summary. In option A, if we allowed this process to end, you understand that that does allow for unsolicited proposals, which could result in a new group of interested firms. And the scoring criteria is already established. So you already have your matrix there for scoring, and you could use that as a guide when you're evaluating those unsolicited proposals if they come in. Some of the drawbacks would be that there is no schedule or timeline for that. So those proposals could come in at any time, and you may not be well positioned to respond to them when they do. And then in other situations, you may be better positioned to respond to them when they do. Of course, unsolicited proposals could deviate substantially from your adopted vision. And then, of course, you'll still need to decide how to proceed with the City Hall building, whether to renovate, vacate, or otherwise. Now, with regard to option B, this would be to reaffirm your details of the RFP to the 5 shortlisted firms and to modify your timeline. So this does keep the existing interested in parties in play. It also keeps the materials and approach in play. And it allows the opportunity to clarify that original language and the associated issues that we heard back from our interviews. Now, the drawbacks are that this does limit participation still to those 5 shortlisted firms, and there's no guarantee that any of them will respond. Since we only got 3 that were even willing to be interviewed or participate in an interview or even respond to the email and phone calls asking them, means that you're really not likely to get more than 3 responses at most, which of course could be concerning in terms of then not getting enough response to really do a fair evaluation across the board. And then finally, of course, option C, should you decide to issue a non-restricted RFP. This maintains the same level of transparency that we've really been committed to from the beginning of the process, which I think is important to all of you. You've all articulated that pretty clearly, that you want to be transparent in this process. It still aligns with the existing process and your commitment to your vision, and it opens the door to an entirely new group, especially as conditions of the economy and market are better understood. things are a little less volatile today than they were 6 or 9 months ago in terms of the overall market conditions and economic conditions. Some of the drawbacks are this would be greater competition, and it may discourage some of your shortlisted firms from staying in the mix, knowing that you're going out to a broader audience. And of course, this is going to delay your schedule likely substantially beyond just a revised RFP going out to your 5 shortlisted firms, because we'll be starting back over same materials, but starting your timeline over. So, we are happy to answer any questions that you may have. And of course, Owen's here as well to dive in if he's got any adds. But, I think we're here to help however we can. And as far as our position on this, I don't want to jump to say we recommend one of these options. It's what's best for you, but in the effort of trying to get a response and trying to get the site underway and stay on some sort of a forward movement, option C really does seem to be your better option to really attract someone interested in the site, as opposed to limiting to the 5 firms you had before.
Okay, does anybody have any comments or questions? Katie, you said you had a comment?
Yeah, I do. Where to start? Overall, and I don't want you to feel like you're standing there, you can sit, Laura. I don't want you to feel like I'm like
I've been sitting
dressing just you.
I've been sitting for 2 hours. I'll stand. Car rides are long.
I can't hide the fact that I'm disappointed. And the reason that I'm disappointed is the feedback that we have here from the interviews isn't a whole lot different than the letter that we received from Stanberry. And for, the additional $14,000 to do these interviews, it sounds like it was a lot of running around. But the net result was kind of like, I thought back a couple months ago that it had to do with economic conditions, things were kind of crazy, people were done selling houses, the market was crashing. And so, writing us, what should we include in this document? Do we include the deposit and the monetary penalty? Do we include this importance of the whole team versus the lead? Is it important that there's an LLC? Is it important that there's, experience and resumes and all these different components, which I felt, I can't speak for everybody. I was relying on GAI that was important stuff to have in the RFP. And so to learn that content was too rigid such that it was a non-starter for some of these shortlisted firms was really disappointing. I understand that there was a process for them to ask questions. But to do so in the way that it was outlined in the process would be for them to show their hand to everybody else involved in the process. And so again, I'm like, okay, well, why wasn't that made a part of our discussion? Why didn't I know that? Why wasn't I, as a council member, aware that these folks probably were going to have all these questions, or that our RFP was going to be so restrictive they wouldn't even want to respond? I wanted to say, Laura, why didn't you tell us that? And so I am disappointed that some of the content was, even different than what some of the industry folks would expect to see in an RFP, because we're not the experts. We're just up here kind of taking the advice, and that's the purpose of the city retaining a consultant. So in reviewing this memorandum, I appreciate the general observations, the first one being the shared parking needs, clarification making the pre-bid meeting mandatory, so if they have a question, they'll come ask it. The question about the city's financial resources. I mean, the MOU in number 5 is not really something that we can do, but again, I feel like a lot of this could have been addressed before we sent out the RFP. I know this is a process, and let me clarify, I am not in any hurry. It's a beautiful property. It's not going anywhere. And we're gonna make sure that that community vision statement, the matrix that we work so hard on, you know, all of the input from our community, we're gonna make sure that that's honored. I'm not in any hurry. But in a sense, this time that we have spent is money.
Yeah.
Right? So, that being said, I do feel we have a good vision, a good matrix. I feel that we have the bones of a good RFP and information that we probably wouldn't have known to include. There's important things like pending litigation and, you know, what's your background, what's your level of experience, and some industry stuff that we wouldn't have known to include, and we wouldn't have been able to do that without y'all. But I am feeling a little bit of reluctance to continue to move forward and throw money at it. Does that make sense? So my inclination is to go with option C, because A would result in unsolicited proposals and puts us in a position where we might be getting a bunch of proposals and none of them match or none of them are responding to any individual criteria. So then we have apples and oranges and the strange ranking of 2019, which we all wish to forget. Then option B, I don't think that we're likely to get any response, right? We're down from 5 to 3 that want to participate in the interview to them giving us a list of why they don't want to participate. I feel like option C gives us the opportunity to cast a wider net and make those clarifications necessary to cast an even better net next time. Because clearly we need some clarification and we as a group need to determine the answers to some of these questions that GAI has brought back to us as far as contributions, finances, and parking. And I'm not really concerned about the timeline because, as I said, you know, we're not in any rush. It's a great piece of property. It's not going anywhere. The only asterisk I would put on the timeline is the potential sunsetting of the CRA. So that is one asterisk, but even then, I'm not willing to hurry up this process and sacrifice this large asset at the expense of all the work that we have done and the input from our community.
Thank you.
That was a lot. Sorry, hopefully
No,
that all made sense.
No, it was wonderful. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few comments. Kind of going back to the questions I was asking about the barriers and as Laura had brought up, as far as we have certain things in place that kind of define a minimum timeline of how quickly we can get to sticking shovels in the sand, right? Because I completely agree. Not in a rush, but at the same time, everybody's waiting with bated breath as far as, well, when is it going to happen? Doesn't matter if it's next week or next decade, right? They want to know, when can we get to a point of actually seeing some activity? So from my perspective, just thinking about those barriers is, obviously we have some guidance based on the feedback we've gotten from these firms. Probably just being able to reflect on that, take lessons learned back to saying, well, what can be tweaked? Is there a different order or desire of how things can take place while still being compliant with our current requirements with the code? As far as the three options go, for me, option A seems like we're all just pulling the eject button and, you know, wait and see what happens. You know, it's just sitting there. There's no plan. I think for one reason or another, all of us are up here and motivated and got elected to continue to push this forward, right? So option A is we're not pushing. We're going to wait till something hopefully falls in our lap. That's what it feels like to me. So option A's for me would definitely be off the table. B, I would concur with Councilmember Gannon. It's like we might get those three that responded interacted with GAI and gave us some valuable feedback to take back and tweak it. That would be great if they do. If some of you may recall when we had that meeting where we went from 9 to 5, I was kind of the position of, well, do we really want to cut it down now? And I'm not by any means saying I was right, that's neither here nor there. It's like, why not with option C, hopefully, there's no guarantee again that we're gonna get 5 new people plus the 3 old firms or anywhere in between. But that one just seems to be opening the door the most based on the framework that's been created thus far between us, GAI, and the people to keep it pushing forward. It may be what is a lengthier timeline than option B, but it's a timeline that still has a timeline versus, I don't know, which is option A. So you can tell I don't like A. So I definitely think, as well as like with the matrix, again, we're not industry experts as it relates to development, right? So while I very much appreciate you taking our input to say, well, I think it should be 20% this and 15 that, I don't know if we were the best ones to do that, to be honest, at least from my perspective. I mean, I think it's valuable to take our input because we can be somewhat in tune with the public to then say, all right, well, this what makes sense, but let me talk you down to reality of here's what's really good out there with best practices as it relates to development. So I welcome the chance to see and work together to tweak that further so that essentially we're down to what's going to give us the best chance to attract the most potential partners to continue that conversation towards ultimately getting to inking that contract. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Graver, any comments?
Just to piggyback off of that, I think when you have something in place like we did, the most important ability is to adjust if that's the case, right? And so option C allows us that availability. I think if we made the revisions based on what the 3 said and then we sent that just to the 3, then somebody else might be like, well, I can do that. I didn't know that's what you guys were going to do, if that makes sense, right? And so that's just from a business perspective of mine, where it's, okay, well, you guys didn't tell me we were going to make these changes, but we didn't know it was too rigid when I went out the door. They said, hey, this is what's going on in our line of work, and these are the things that we're concerned about, to not even sharpen the pencils, as Councilmember Gannon had alluded to. So I'm for option C, to continue repeating the same thing. I don't think it's time well spent, but C was what I had considered as I read through the agenda, and then after hearing the comments, I have the same opinion.
Thank you. Councilmember Buckman?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I want to echo what Councilmember Gannon said at the beginning. I'm not going to repeat it, but I want to add to it a little bit because I think going back to our discussions in this process, even you had mentioned that this was the most transparent process that you encountered. And I'm wondering, not trying to defend GAI here from the dais, but understand, was that part of what led to the rigidity in what we saw in the RFP? So just take that for what it is. Looking at A, B, and C, I agree. A is not the right option. It's setting us back up. It's taking us completely off course. B is limited. I know I was a supporter of keeping with the 5 back then, but we went through that process. The process is over. We're opening the doors again. I think C is our best option to move forward with as well.
All right, thank you. I just have a couple comments. You know, I met both of you at CRA 101 about a year ago. And I remember in that class, there were several other municipalities that talked very highly of your performance and what you've done for their cities. And considering what has happened in all this process, I just want to thank you for your hard work, but I think that you guys are still on the right track. I agree with Councilmember Gannon about not really being in a hurry, because that is a beautiful piece of property, as she stated. And I think that the future, we can probably find someone that will be a partner with the city of Oldsmar to build us a vibrant downtown someday. I don't know when that's going to be, but I think if we go with option C and we open the gates a little bit here to allow for a few other developers that have shown interest in that property, I feel that we might be able to find a winning tool to build us our dream. And I feel that you both have done a marvelous job, and I think you guys are still on the right track. So I'm not giving up yet. So I think we all agree that we have a consensus that C is going to be the option. So I guess we might be seeing more of you in the future. Any other comments? Yes, Councilman Gannon.
Thank you, Mayor. It's based on the consensus that option C is the path we want to follow. I'm assuming that, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that there will be some cost component to that, and that will come before council at the beginning of the new year as to what we're going to do next, or are we going to have a work session maybe to, I don't know, Mayor, what do you think? Or-
You want to address that? Because we did talk about that today.
Yes, I can address it. So you all approved a scope earlier this year that actually had, the task one was the interviews and the report, and then task two was an RFP addendum modification and support, followed by task three, evaluation and selection assistance. But we're only authorized it, and the scope says that they had to receive a notice to proceed for each task.
Right.
So from a logistical perspective, you all have already approved an overriding task order that includes all of the subsequent elements. So I will have to talk to the consultants to make sure that if the council desires another work session to discuss the RFP contents is included in that.
Okay, thank you for
All right,
that.
you're welcome. Anything else, other comments? All right, anything else?
No, thank you all so much. And I hope you've all had an enjoyable holiday and you have a good holiday coming up. We'll coordinate with Felicia and Mr. Trask in the next coming weeks to come up with a strategy for modifying the RFP and making those adjustments. I do want to point out that, that RFP I still would say it's a pretty solid RFP. It's got all of the things that I think most people expect to see in an RFP. The areas that may have been a bit rigid, again, I think are a bit of an extreme interpretation of the language. And I don't hold that against people who do that because I'm a consultant. I do it sometimes. I pick up RFPs that cities put out and I'm like, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Whoa, that doesn't make sense. And it's not that I'm reading it the way that I'm interpreting it. And that's not always going to be the same. Everyone's going to interpret a specific standard or a specific requirement differently. We did actually offer in a few places within the RFP, we would ask a question that we want them to respond to, and then as part of that statement, we would say, or identify challenges with satisfying this issue. And that was somewhere that I think even in the interviews that we did, we would ask, we're like, did you read this part that said you can tell us what the problem is with this, with your proposal? You could have written and done it differently and then explained why you had to do it differently to overcome a challenge. And they were like, oh, yeah, I mean, that's in there, but I just read the first part and I didn't really think that that was what you wanted. I'm like, well, I mean, that's why we put in there to identify your challenges. But again, like I said, everyone's going to read and interpret things to their own standards. So I think there is a great opportunity here to then kind of underscore some of those things where we can say, hey, by the way, if this is problematic, if for some reason you can't make this work, explain why you can't make it work and offer your suggested next step or your suggested strategy to still meet the intent of that. So I think that we have an opportunity here to sort of underscore that and give them a little bit more flexibility while also staying true to the entire structure and the underlying mission and vision that you spent an enormous amount of time and energy establishing. So we're looking forward to starting up with you again in the new year. And I hope you all have a wonderful holiday. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, next item on our agenda is number 2. You want me to read that, or you want to read it?
I'll read
Oh,
it, Mayor.
thank you.
Gabler. So item number 2 is to authorize payment to Charter Communications Holdings LLC for underground conversion of Spectrum cable for St. Petersburg Drive. As you are aware, the St. Petersburg Drive Complete Street project is in the last stages of the design. This proposal is to relocate Spectrum's existing aerial facilities underground. On January 17th of 2023, the City Council approved the upcoming underground conversion for TECO. Since Spectrum is presently occupying the same facility that TECO occupies, the relocation of TECO's facilities will automatically force Spectrum lines to relocate. Project team has recommended that the placement of aerial facilities be completed prior to the project in order to avoid contract delays when the grant funds become available. Placement of the aerial lines to underground will create a more aesthetically pleasing corridor and improve the resiliency of our power grid. Staff recommends approval. The work is not to exceed $119,708.50, and a portion of the project associated with the construction outside of the center line of the roadway is not to exceed 50% of the total, or $59,854.25. And the cost is equally going to be split between the CRA fund and the capital improvement fund, which both have sufficient encumbered funds. Staff recommends approval.
Thank you for that. I need a motion to approve. I have a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on this item? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item on our agenda is the consent docket, and this will be read by our city clerk, Kristen Garcia.
Item 3, approve minutes of November 7th, 2023 council meeting. Item 4, approve payment of October 2023 legal services to Bartlett, Loeb, Hens, and Thompson, PLLC, for Eric Seidel's litigation defense. Item 5, approve agreement with Neighborly Care Network, Inc. for charitable donation allocation of $4,500 for fiscal year 2023 to 2024. Item 6, approve agreement with Clearwater for Youth, Inc. for charitable donation allocation of $1,000 for fiscal year 2023 to 2024. Item 7, approve agreement with Oldsmar Friends of the Arts, Inc. for charitable donation allocation of $5,500 for fiscal year 2023 to 2024. Item 8, approve agreement with Oldsmar's Cares, Inc. for charitable donation allocation of $27,000 for fiscal year 2023 to 2024. Item 9, approve price increase of the sludge hauling and disposal services contract to Appalachian Material Services, Inc. under the same pricing terms and conditions as the City of Tarpon Springs contract number IFB 2000049-B-JL. Item 10, approve purchase of IT equipment and services to VTech IO based on the same pricing terms and conditions as the State of Florida DMS contract number 43211-500-WSCA-15-ACS. Item 11, approve purchases of miscellaneous utility appurtenances, including meters, backflows, valves, and hydrants from Core and Main LP for the same pricing terms and conditions of the City of Boynton Beach contract number WH22-047. Item 12, approve single source purchase of Neptune products and services related to the water meters and registers from Ferguson Waterworks per notice of intent to single source 2022-003-SS. Item 14, approve the purchase of carbon dioxide from Matheson Trigas, Inc. under the same pricing terms and conditions as Sarasota County, contract number 191784HR. Item 14, approve the purchase of a Toyota Tundra SR double cab 2WD pickup truck for the water reclamation facility to Seminole Toyota per the pricing terms and conditions of the Florida Sheriff Contract FSA 23-VEL 31.00. Item 15, award the purchase of a Toyota Tundra SR double cab 4x4 pickup truck for ROWTP to Seminole Toyota per the pricing terms and conditions of the Florida Sheriff Contract FSA 23-VEL 31.0. Item 16, request council to authorize contracting with Precision Sidewalk Safety Corp. For the repair and elimination of sidewalk trip hazards under the same pricing terms and conditions as the Florida Bay State Purchasing Cooperative Contract number RFP number 21-18 CC 22-003.
Thank you. Great job. Sounds like we're getting some new pickup trucks. All right. Anybody wish to pull anything from the consent docket? All right. With that, I need a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
I got a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing, and I'm going to turn that over to City Attorney Tom Trask.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to go ahead and read this ordinance by title only. This is ordinance 2023-06, an ordinance of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, rezoning certain real property located at 505 St. Petersburg Drive West. This is parcel number 2328-16-63936-041-0020 from R3 Residential 2 and 3 Family District to R2 Residential Single Family, and providing for the effective date. This is a quasi-judicial hearing. Let me go ahead and read those procedures we're going to follow tonight. This is a quasi-judicial proceeding where the city council acts in a quasi-judicial rather than a legislative capacity. At this quasi-judicial hearing, it is not the city council's function to make law, but rather to apply law that has already been established. In a quasi-judicial hearing, the city council is required by law to make findings of fact based upon the evidence presented at this hearing and apply those findings of fact to previously established criteria contained in the Code of Ordinances in order to make a legal decision regarding the application before it. City council may only consider the evidence at this hearing that the law considers competent, substantial, and relevant to the issues. If the competent, substantial, and relevant evidence at this hearing demonstrates that the applicant has met the criteria established in the Code of Ordinances, then the city council is required by law to find in favor of the applicant. By the same token, if the competent, substantial, and relevant evidence at this hearing demonstrates that the applicant has failed to meet the criteria established in the Code of Ordinances, then the city council is required by law to find against the applicant. With that being said, I need to ask whether there have been any ex parte contacts or conflicts of interest that need to be disclosed tonight on this application.
Mayor,
Yes.
I have a conflict of interest. I have already gone ahead and filed my form for conflict of interest, and the reason for my conflict of interest is I own property that is within the 200 feet of the subject property under consideration tonight, and was one of the property owners notified as affected by this. The party size is small. Tom, it's 23 total?
That's what I counted as 23.
23, so based on Tom's recommendation of the party size of affected, that I should abstain from this consideration.
Okay. Any other conflicts or ex parte communications?
No.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go ahead. We're going to swear in any witnesses then that are going to speak on this item tonight. So if you're going to speak, if you could stand up, raise your right hand and be sworn under oath. You swear the testimony you're about to give tonight is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Jackson, do you want to make the city's presentation tonight?
I do. We're working through a little technical issue right now.
Okay.
So just if you could bear with me 1 second.
Sure. There you go.
It's up there. Is it forward? Yeah. I think we're all right. Thank you, Wes. Appreciate that.
Thank
Never a dull moment. Good evening. Matt Jackson, Planning and Redevelopment Department. Tonight we are going to discuss the rezoning proposed to 505 St. Petersburg Drive West under application number ZLU 23-02. So as you see before you here, this is a location aerial map. The property is located on the south side of St. Petersburg Drive, with Federal Street to the east and Pine Avenue to the south, to the west. A little bit of background about the property. The property is developed currently with a single-family home, and as I showed you, is located at the southwest corner of St. Petersburg Drive and Federal. The current zoning of the property is R3, residential 2 and 3 family, with a city land use designation of residential urban. The R3 designation does require a lot width of 75 feet, and it currently could be developed with 6 units. The applicant is proposing to demolish the single-family home to construct 5 single-family homes. And the property is surrounded by single-family homes to the south and west, as well as across the adjacent rights-of-way. As you can see before you on the left-hand side of the screen is the existing site conditions. It's all one piece of property there with the existing single-family home, and they are proposing to, post-rezoning, create 5 different pieces of property with 5 single-family homes. So again, the request is to change the rezoning, or change the zoning from R3 to R2, which will allow a 50-foot lot width for the single-family homes, where right now under the current zoning of R3, it's 75 feet is the minimum lot width. Again, under current code, they could develop the property with 6 units, 2 or 3 family units, where under this request, it would be developed with 5 single-family homes. And it also would be returning the site as originally platted to those dimensions. So the rezoning request was reviewed against the conditions outlined in Land Development Code 3.15.3. And again, the request does include the development of the site with the 5 single-family homes, with the rezoning meeting all the conditions. The planning board at their October 11th, 2023 meeting did recommend approval to the city council for the rezoning request. And last, pursuant to Florida statutes, a business impact estimate is included in the, is filed on the record, and the estimate found to have no impact on local businesses. This concludes my presentation. I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions for Matt? No? Good job.
I like the old map. That was cool.
I will pass that on to Tatiana. One of the first things that she asked me to do was to provide that. Oh, she's here. Hey.
How
Good to
convenient.
see you. During the training, she provided that plat map to me, and I just have it as a saved document, and I just cut
It's
a
really
piece out.
neat
So
to-
thank you, Tatiana.
It's neat to see that.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, if there are no questions for our city council, then, is the applicant here tonight? Sir, if you could step forward. You've been sworn under oath. Before you start and give your presentation, do you have any questions of Mr. Jackson? This is time for cross-examination. If you have any questions based upon the testimony that he's already given.
No questions at all.
Okay. If you could introduce yourself then and make any presentation that you want on behalf of the applicant.
I'm John Blazer. I work with Sean Swager. I just can answer whatever questions you may have about what our intentions are.
You don't have any specific presentation then?
No. I mean, everything he said is what we're planning on doing, 5 home sites.
Okay. Anyone have any questions from city council of this particular witness?
Any questions? Okay.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, and I will open up the public hearing. Does anybody wish to speak for or against this matter? Please come up. No? Okay, then I will close the public hearing. Is there any final applicant closing statement?
Sir, do you have a closing statement?
No, sir, I do not.
All right,
Thank you.
then I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second? I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on this? No?
No.
Turn it over to Kristen.
Roll call. Councilmember Graber,
Yes.
Councilmember Buckman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Knapp,
Abstain.
Councilmember Gannon,
Yes.
Mayor Siraki.
Yes.
First reading of ordinance 2023-06 passes with 4 votes for, 0 against, and 1 abstained.
All right, thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Item 18.
Item 18 is Resolution 2023-28, adopting board member appointment policy. Remember that on September the 20th, the city clerk presented to the city council an overview regarding the city boards. City council expressed their desire to hold a work session regarding the board appointment process. At that work session on October 24th, the city council provided direction to staff regarding board appointments. City clerk recommends adopting a formal board member appointment policy, and that's enclosed in Exhibit A that's in your packet. And I'm going to go ahead and read the resolution by title only, which Exhibit A would attach to. This is Resolution 2023-28, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, adopting a board member appointment policy and providing for an effective date hereof. That was reading of Resolution 2023-28 by title only.
All right, thank you. Does anybody, I need a motion to approve.
So moved?
Second? Second.
All right. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, discussion. I'm sorry. Anybody have discussion? No one? Okay, you go first. Because I have discussion.
Baby comment. I just wanted to thank Kristen and Tom for all of the research, and this entire project has turned out to be really interesting to see where we needed more transparency with appointments to the boards and making everything more streamlined and very clear so that there's no, dusty drawer or folder with applications and everybody knows exactly what the rules are and people can better serve in their community.
I just want to say, Kristen, since you've been here, this is stellar performance. I don't even know how to thank you for your hard work in getting this done. And I think I forgot the discussion part because I was so excited. I wanted to tell you that. So I really, no, and our work session that we had together, I thought it was spot on. We all worked well together to help you make these decisions. So I just wanted to say thank you. Any other discussion?
Thanks for asking. No discussion from me, Mayor.
All right. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 19.
This is Resolution 2023-29, prescribing the ballot language for the March 19, 2024 municipal election for the position of a council member for seat 1 and for the position of council member for seat 3. I'll go ahead and read that resolution by title only. Resolution 2023-29, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, prescribing the ballot language for the March 19, 2024 municipal election for position of council member for seat 1 and for position of council member for seat 3, and providing for the effective date hereof. That was a reading of Resolution 2023-29 by title only.
All right, thank you. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on this item? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom, for everything. Next is item 20, and our city manager, Felicia Donna, will handle that.
Thank you, Mayor. And before I start with item 20, at the last council meeting, you all made a motion to postpone the presentation for the water supply plan until this meeting. You'll notice it's not on the agenda. It's been requested that that item be presented on the December 19th agenda, so it is now included in your tentative agenda to be later considered for adoption for the postponement. Item number 20 is to adopt Resolution 2023-23, revising the budget for fiscal year 23-24. Attached, you'll find a resolution, a revision of the annual budget for the fiscal year 23-24. The general fund requires adjustment. The library department and the recreation division require additional appropriations for the replacement of the HVAC systems at the Oldsmar Public Library. The public library is $175,000 and Cypress Forest Rec Center for $135,000. The existing HVAC units are at their end of their useful life and required frequent repairs. These projects were originally budgeted in fiscal year 23, but additional time was required to finalize the technical specifications. Contracts for both projects will be presented for consideration on December 19th, 2023. Second, the Technical Services Division has requested a $50,000 increase in professional services for assistant with engineering reviews of plans and permits. The general fund appropriated reserves will be used to fund these adjustments. A total of $360,000 of additional reserves will be recognized in fiscal year 23-24 general fund budget to fund the appropriations. I will read the resolution in its entirety. Resolution 2023-23, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, revising the budget for fiscal year beginning October 1, 2023 and ending September 30th, 2024. Authorizing the city manager and the director of administrative services to revise the existing budget. Whereas the City Council of the City of Oldsmar, Florida has approved a municipal budget for a fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2023 and ending September 30th, 2024. And whereas the City Council of the City of Oldsmar, Florida is desirous of amending the budget by revising various revenues and expenditures, now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, that the following revenues and expenditures be revised in the following manner based on the review of the budget. Section 1, the City Council of the City of Oldsmar, Florida has hereby revised the existing budget for fiscal year 23-24 in accordance with Schedule A as attached. Section 2, the resolution will take effect immediately upon passage. Staff recommends approval.
Thank you. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
I have a motion, a second.
Second.
I got a motion, a second. Any other discussion? Air conditioning is very expensive. I have one going out, and I have to replace one. I'm like, yikes.
Worse.
All right, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 21.
Item 21 is approve and authorize the city manager to execute grant agreement B 22-CP-FL-0244 with the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, for the Oldsmar State Street Drainage Ditch Improvement Project. In March of 2023, the city of Oldsmar received an appropriation from the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development for an amount of $1.6 million for the State Street Drainage Ditch Improvements Project. The project will replace the existing ditch with a continuous box culvert. This area has a large ditch on the northeast side of the road. At present, the culverts under the driveways create constrictions which cause erosion of the open ditch segments. The project will support the strategic priorities of maintaining existing infrastructure and enhance roadway safety for all modalities, including safe routes to school. In fiscal year 22-23, Ardora and Associates completed a required National Environmental Policy Act review of the site from NEPA, and the city received authorization to move forward with the grant agreement on August 29, 2023. This grant agreement is the next step in the city's receiving the city's grant funds. The project is currently budgeted in the Capital Improvement Program and the Stormwater Utility Fund for design in fiscal year 23-24, and construction is scheduled for 24-25. Staff recommends approval.
All right, thank you. I need a motion to approve.
Moved.
Second.
Second.
Any other discussion on this item?
So excited.
I know.
That area has been, ugh. I mean, I've watched it over the years going down, toward my house on State Street. You can just see it getting closer and closer to the road. The erosion, it's just
Yeah.
getting, the slope gets steeper and steeper. I'm like, oh boy, we're gonna lose part of State Street down into that culvert. So
This is going to be beautiful when
I
it's
know
done.
sometimes grants can be a pain. Sorry, Cindy, Administrative Services. We love you guys and all the grant work that comes afterward, but it's a big deal.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 22.
Is authorize the city manager to execute easement granted by 208 Tower Drive LLC, a Florida limited liability company. The city is required to have easements in place in order to complete work on private property. The purpose of this easement is to have access to a fire hydrant lines in case repairs are needed. The fire hydrant is being relocated at 206 Tower Drive in order for the owner to bring their building up to fire code. Staff recommends approval.
Thank you. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion and a second here, discussion on this item. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 23.
Item 23 is authorize the city manager to execute easements granted by Tamco Properties, Inc. for the Douglas Road project. The city is required to have easements in place in order to complete work on private property. The Douglas Road project requires several permanent and temporary construction easements. These easements were requested by city staff in order to legally access and construct on private property. The purpose of the drainage easement is to have a permanent stormwater infrastructure in the Tamco property located at 330 Douglas Road. The temporary construction easement is required in order for the city's contractor to be able to regrade on private property to match the new grading of the right-of-way. These easements are one of the last elements required to facilitate the Florida Department of Transportation approval needed to proceed with the bidding of the Douglas Road project. Staff recommends approval.
One of the last.
Last project.
Which one is the last one?
It's one of the last or the last, Daniel?
All right, I need a motion to approve. Have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All right, thank God for the last one. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, next item is our city clerk. Item 24.
Item 24, approve an agreement for conducting in conjunction municipal election with the Pinellas County Supervisor of Elections for the municipal election on March 19th, 2024. The Pinellas County Supervisor of Elections conducts the municipal election for the city of Oldsmar. The municipal election for the position of council member for seat 1 and for position of council member for seat 3 will be held on March 19th, 2024. The city will enter into an agreement with the Pinellas County Supervisor of Elections office for the county to prepare the actual ballot for the March 19th, 2024 municipal election in accordance with state election laws. The agreement reflects that the election is to be conducted under any applicable ordinances of the city of Oldsmar and all sections of chapters 97 through 106 Florida statutes. It is understood that the supervisor is in charge of the election and that the county canvassing board is responsible for canvassing that election. The county canvassing board will certify the election results and will provide a certificate of election to the city. The agreement has been reviewed by the city attorney and staff recommends approval.
All right, thank you. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 25.
Item 25, reschedule visioning work session on December 12th, 2023 from 4 PM to 3 PM.
Thank you. I just want to just discuss this. I wanted to change it because hopefully maybe you might be able to go to the women's club party, or if we have time, I'm not sure. I just wanted to try to move it up. But go ahead, do you have something?
Mayor, I did talk with the consultant this afternoon, so if there is challenges associated with keeping the state with conflicting schedules, the consultant has many available dates in January, if you
Okay.
want to consider rescheduling.
Okay. Would you guys want to do that?
So the conflict that the mayor alluded to, I have a hearing for the other work. I have a hearing that the court has at present required to be in person in Volusia County, which is across the state, at 1:30 in the afternoon, which the current time would have accommodated, but then moving it up an hour, I was like, oof, I might not get back in time, so I'm not
Okay.
sure. Even though I would be, of course, disappointed to miss the Women's Club meeting and Christmas party, my larger concern was being able to travel across the state for the in-person hearing. And we're still trying to figure out if I can appear via Zoom, but the court has so far not issued an order yet. So that was the conflict that I had.
Okay,
with
I didn't know
moving
that.
it
Anybody
up
else
an
have a
hour.
conflict?
Yeah, I've been asked by senior leadership at my corporation. I will be in Birmingham the 12th and 13th. This happened last week, so I will be out of town for that meeting.
I have something going on that night too. I mean, it's just crazy to the season right now. So yes, I think that,
Maybe January works.
I think it
We
would be
can't
better.
We can't have
Possibly 2 out.
Councilmember Buckman not here, and I mean,
Possibly
Right.
2 out, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, we
God forbid
need-
there
we
be a
need
car accident on
everybody here.
I-4, but we all need to be here.
Yeah, we all need to be here. I agree. So do we have any dates? Do you have any dates?
I don't have dates, but I can bring forward an item for the next agenda that would have a few dates to consider.
All right, do we have a consensus? We're gonna move it to January? All right,
Okay for you guys?
Yeah, so it just would stay currently scheduled until, or do you need a motion to cancel it, or just we're gonna
Oh.
put
You can
it
do
on
that
the
on
next-
December 19th. You can,
Just
so no
reschedule it
action
then.
tonight, and then on December 19th.
Change the date.
When we're back here, just change the date.
Okay.
all right, so no action, so we're done.
So we'll just add that to the tentative.
You're gonna have the dates by December 19th, right?
By December 19th, but they would be postponing it now because it's next week, so it would be before then.
Oh, that's true.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I have to
Make sure that there's not a,
Wait a minute, don't we need
Wait a
to?
minute, we got a date coming up.
So we just, do we need a motion to
We
cancel?
need a motion to cancel it as currently scheduled.
Correct, because you don't have a date. You can't table it
Yeah.
to a date certain, so.
All right, so I need a motion
I'll
to
move
cancel.
to cancel the December 12th, 2023 visioning session.
Second.
Motion second. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you, Felicia. I'm very happy. I think Katie's happy and so is Jared.
That alleviates my travel concern as well.
Yeah, we all need to be together. I agree 100%.
Okay.
All right. Next item is city council, and it's city council comments. And first tonight is Councilmember Steve Graber.
A few things. I attended Winter Wonderland. Noticed you weren't there, Santa Claus was, but I think you showed up
If
a
you were
little
there,
bit
you would
later.
know.
He missed you.
Well, yeah, I was waving, I was putting bunny ears up behind his head, just, to, get some pictures with the kids. But My kids had a blast, the bounce houses and the sledding hill, hearkening back to dear old Dad's days in Buffalo, where we just did that because it happened to be Wednesday. But my son was all over it, for sure. And then I was able to attend the Florida League of Cities Legislative Committee meeting in Orlando last week. It's my first time as a member of that committee, to be able to be in attendance for that. So that was very worthwhile and time well spent, for sure. And then next week, I have to be in Orlando again for the Florida League of Cities Municipal Investment Trust meeting, which they made me chair of at the last one. So lots of stuff going on with the league as we round out the end of the year. And then I'm looking forward to the golf cart parade this coming weekend, if I'm not sure, 6 o'clock. And then well, I was looking forward to the work session next week. We're not going to be having it, so cross that one out.
Sorry.
And, no, it's okay. That's all good. I've had work conflicts as well. And just one thing, the team that finished number 5 in the college football rankings, I just wanted to congratulate them on a job well done this year.
Wow.
Go Seminoles. That's all I had to say, Mayor. Thank you so
All
very,
right.
very much.
All right, sounds good. All right, Councilmember Katie Gannon.
Thank you, Mayor. Winter Wonderland, our Parks and Rec department knocked it out of the park. And also the tree lighting ceremony. What a fantastic event. The additional snow, the additional lighting elements, everything just, it really came together. So many compliments to our Parks and Recs. I keep wanting to say leisure services. I'm in the practice of it yet, but I'll get there. But many thanks to the Parks and Rec department. With everything coming up this weekend, breakfast with Santa and the parade, I don't know if they're sleeping. Maybe they get sleep with Santa after Christmas and the holidays are over, but many thanks to our elves and team behind the scenes and all the volunteers in the community to help put those events on as well. I wanted to thank you, Mayor, tonight for taking a photo with the group of kids from Ovations. You know, it's not very often that you get to say, well, I can get you a picture with the mayor.
Yeah. I love how they dressed up.
And yeah, you know, it was really cool because tonight we had two of our biggest community leaders for theater and our children's programs here. Sudi Yancis Colon was here from Opal and OFOTA, and to have Orlando Pena here from Ovations, and to see the kids, and that production will be, the Nutcracker will be at Dunedin High School on Saturday. So thank you for that photo. That meant a lot to me. And I know it meant a lot to the kids who were like, we're gonna meet the mayor? I was like, he's nice. It's gonna be okay, you guys. He's a nice guy. One thing that I wanted to mention, we had a couple of things on the agenda tonight related to the March election. I'm sure you guys are fully educated on all this, but just to be sure, in case you know, members of our community have not become aware, there were certain changes that were put in place, and I would encourage folks to visit votepinellas.gov to check their mail ballot status. So if you are someone who likes to vote by mail, I would encourage you to go online and re-request that ballot. A lot of people were confused, and you know, I even spoke to my mother, and she doesn't live in Oldsmar, but she said, no, I always sign on the thing that I request a ballot for the next election, you know, on the envelope. But you have to go online this time and re-request that ballot if you prefer to vote by mail. And I know a great majority of our residents do. So definitely go, you know, go online and do that. And if you know people that vote online, or vote by mail, tell them to do the same thing. But other than that, I thank you for the flexibility for next week and rescheduling that. I will let the Women's Club know that I will join the White Elephant gift party after all.
They're going to be excited. One thing too about the election, that the date is later. Usually it's like March 9th or 8th. It's way later, which I think is great.
Really? I think,
It was because of the presidential.
yeah, it has to
primary.
coincide with the supervisor of elections already scheduled presidential primary.
I think it's great. All right, well, thank you, Councilmember Gannon. Next is Councilmember Jared Buckman.
Thank you, Mayor. I also attended Winter Wonderland. What another great event by Leisure Services, Parks and Recs, sorry.
Right? Floyd?
The events keep getting better and better. I know Chip's not here, but Parks and Rec are doing an amazing job with all the events going on. I want to say, great job. I know Ms. Suda said it earlier, by my wife singing with the carolers. Not sleeping on couch tonight, okay? And that's all I have, Mayor.
That was easy.
It was quick and
All right,
easy.
I'm gonna go, everybody, no, Vice Mayor Andrew Knapp. I almost went ahead.
I thought you were
Almost
about to
forgot.
say, I'm going to go second to last.
I almost forgot you, buddy.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few things. I will also give props to staff for Winter Wonderland. I think the city manager highlighted the newer area for toddlers, which is where I spent most of my evening. We got there early and were there for about the first half of the event, and it just, when we left, which was 7:30 or so, just throngs. People were still coming in at a faster rate than leaving. So it was a well put together event. The addition of that toddler area and crafts area kept the kids. I heard kids screaming like, "It's free!" Like they were so excited for the stuff that was out there, running back to their parents because they're a little apprehension, like, "Oh, that probably cost something," and then the kids just so much joy and having fun. And so, yeah, great job to staff on that. I attended the mayor's breakfast along with the mayor and Councilmember Buckman last Friday. And that was a great event. As usual, I wasn't able to stay too long due to some work constraints, but always great attendance out there. I'm sure the mayor will probably speak to it as well because he had a special guest in attendance there with him, so I won't spoil that surprise. This coming Monday, I'll be finally, for the first time in person, able to attend Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council meeting. It's their annual meeting, so they will be installing their new board for the upcoming year. I'm really looking forward to that. They're having a holiday breakfast beforehand, so I'm excited to finally go and meet some other local leaders in person from our area, some of which I already know. The second to last thing I have, some of you, those in the audience as well, on your way into council chambers tonight within the last couple of days, may have noticed some road work signs starting to pop up around State Road 580. I had people in my new neighborhood asking me, because, of course, now I'm the guy that knows things in the neighborhood. What's going on, Andrew?
Congratulations, HOA president.
Yeah. And so I had a suspicion. I haven't officially confirmed it, but maybe perhaps the city manager can. It is most likely for the resurfacing taking place from Frank's Bridge, as I like to call it, all the way to Tampa Road. They're going to be resurfacing up and down.
Great.
They're getting ready to start. So I went on the FDOT website. They said basically starting at late 2023 with an anticipated completion of summer of next year. So really looking forward to that. I'm sure as probably everybody in this room knows, the intersection at 580 and Forest Lakes is awful.
It is.
It is just, I don't know how many people are
like
getting
crumbs.
flats.
Yeah, the road is like.
It is crumbling. So I'm sure there so many people will be thankful for that project to get started and come to completion. And last but not least, we're going to have a new driver on the road in another month, but his birthday is tonight. So to my first nephew, the guy that gave me my uncle card, Sean, happy birthday, happy 16th birthday. Hope you have all the fun and you recover from your BMX injuries that you got recently. And ready to hit the road in January. Oh, yeah. BMX is it's a tough
He
sport.
broke his wrist or his arm, wasn't it?
He fractured his collarbone a while
That's
back.
what it was,
But
yeah.
he took it to like the chin recently and was.
Do you have a helmet on?
He did, but stuff happens.
It runs in the family, I
It
guess.
does run in the family. Don't put us out on the track. So again, happy birthday, Sean. I hope you enjoy it today. We had a family get together yesterday to surprise him. So.
All right. Thank you, Vice Mayor. All right, just Councilmember Graver, the legislative conference, I was there. Unfortunately, I had to leave to go to the mayor's breakfast, but I would have been at that meeting with you. And thank you for that update. Believe it or not, we haven't been here in a while. I just wanted to say thank you to the city staff for Veterans Day. I mean, that was a great event. That was amazing. We haven't been here. We took the council meeting before Thanksgiving. So I wanted to say thank you. That was a super successful event. And then celebrate Oldsmar, the fireworks. I think they were the best ever.
It's true.
I really do. I think the the staff, the chamber did a great job. That was packed. That was really packed with people for the fireworks. And then I wanted to talk about Christmas Wonderland. City staff did an amazing job. And I want to just thank everybody for the hard work. The fire department was there. They did a great job. And I just want to tell a short story that this year, of all the years I've done that special gentleman, today, this year was more different cultures from around the world that I've ever witnessed coming to visit. And this was more of a family, where usually it's just kids. You know, the kids want to see the man. But this year, it was families there were several families of a large family. So the first family would take a picture, the second family would take a picture, and then the whole family would come together. So it was a really unique thing that our city is starting to bring these different cultures of people from around the world to our city. And I think that's a really interesting thing.
Do you know if Santa keeps track of how many people come for a photo with Santa? Was this year particularly?
I think it was absolutely the most ever.
Most ever.
So Chip Potts, during when I had to leave, my
Santa had to
chair
leave.
was stuck in the ground. He couldn't get it out. That's how
lot of
people were there sitting on it. So, yeah, it was pretty interesting. But I wanted to share that. And then the Safety Harbor Parade, I attended that. That parade was on Saturday. That was the most people I've ever seen in Safety Harbor in that parade ever. That parade just would not stop. It lasted for a little over an hour of just floats, bands. It was a great event, and I want to thank our employee Mike Barrow for driving Paula and I, and it was my grandson's 12th birthday, and for his birthday, he got to sit in the car and help us throw beads, so he was just ecstatic. And now he's telling my daughter that he wants to move to Oldsmar. So good. The mayor's breakfast, I want to thank Vice Mayor for being there, and I know, and Councilmember Buckman, you guys might have been busy, but it was a great event. And as Andrew said, we had a special guest. When I first moved to Oldsmar in 1996, it was Mayor Jerry Palmisano, and I met him at an event one time in 96 or 97, and I just remember his mustache, that curly mustache.
All the way around, yep.
Well, he called me and said he wanted to come to the breakfast, and I had no idea why. He wouldn't tell me. He just said, I wanted to come and I want to pay for my ticket. So he sat at the table with us, and he did a short speech about the history of the mayor's breakfast, which I couldn't believe. But it started back with Linda Williams, and the Chamber of Commerce started it in 1988, and it was only the Oldsmar's mayor's breakfast for 2 years. And then they merged to Safety Harbor, and he told that story on stage, and everyone really enjoyed that. I wanted to share that, so that was a great event, and thank you, Felicia, and Fire Chief Jason. And then the last thing is the golf cart parade. We're going to be there. Is everybody in?
My kids like to watch it.
Yep, but you're going to be in it?
I should be there, yeah.
We're okay. And then we have Breakfast with Santa this Saturday at Ariel's Park.
Yep.
And that's all I have.
I thought Breakfast with Santa was at State Street Center.
See, I told you that's what I said too, right? And no, it's right, it's changed.
It's at Ari Olds Park.
It's at Ariel's Park.
I'm glad I said that because I thought the same thing. I said to Kristen in our meeting today, I said, it's at,
We'll make sure we have signage.
Yeah, maybe add some sign.
Redirect.
because I thought the same thing, and I asked Kristen, and she said, no, it's at Ariel's Park.
So maybe ask Deb.
All right, we're all good? Anything else?
You can
Tom,
mute
you have
it.
anything? Felicia?
Just
Oh, yes.
one little thing I want to add to that story from Mayor Provenzano. He said, because I think this will all blow most of your minds, like that first mayor's breakfast, he said there were 34 people there.
34
Oh, yeah, that's right, yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, that's it.
Very cool.
I don't know, there was probably 200.
He must have enjoyed seeing so many people there. That's pretty cool.
He was really, and he also mentioned that Linda Williams, and what was the other gentleman's name, the attorney? They've been to every one since 1988.
Yeah.
He used to be our city attorney, I forgot his, Cutchins.
Ryan Hutchins.
Yep,
Ryan Cutchins, thank you. They've been, and they were there at that breakfast.
every year.
Every year. All right.
So,
Got
Oh,
tentative
yes,
agenda?
we have one more agenda. Thank you. We have item 27, approved tentative agenda for the September 19th, 2023 council meeting.
December 19th,
December, what did I say?
September.
Okay, December. Yeah, December 19th. Does anybody wish to pull or add anything? Yes.
I would like to add reschedule visioning work session.
All right. Anything else?
No.
All right, I need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve as amended.
Second.
I got a motion second. Any other discussion on this? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?